Hello, everyone. My name is Alyssa Galicia. I use she, her pronouns, and I am a feminist. Now, I gotta be honest with you. When I first started doing research on feminism as part of the big research essay we had to do for 8th grade, I was quite unsure about what stance I was gonna take on the issue. There was a lot of conflicting information out there, and although I, of course, believed and still believe in gender equality, I wasn't sure if feminism was still necessary. But after doing a lot more research and a lot of deliberation, I came to the realization that feminism is, in fact, necessary in today's society, even here in the United States. So I wrote my essay, and when I finished my essay, I asked for peer reviews. The first person I asked to review my essay, she read the word feminism and flat out refused to read the rest. Feminists hate men, she said. If a woman were drowning and a man came and rescued her, feminists would get mad at him, she said. Now, I was shocked. I mean, I knew anti-feminists existed on the internet, but my friends? And after this, I really started to realize how much feminism was needed, even just at my school. Boys in my PE class, for example, would blatantly sexualize my female classmates. Girls were always seen as weaker than boys, and you would never see a female student at robotics club, ever. And yet, feminism was still seen by many of my peers as an awful thing to support. Now, I don't say this to discount any of the great strides that we've made in this country towards gender equality, but although many people believe that feminism is irrelevant in this day and age, feminism is still necessary in order to achieve gender equality in all realms of society. Now, long before America was even founded, there have been advocates for women's rights. Mary Astell, a woman credited as the first English feminist, wrote in 1706, "If all men are born free, how is it that all women are born slaves?" America's feminist movement didn't officially begin until the Women's Rights Convention of 1848 at Seneca Falls. Many of the feminists present at this meeting helped lay the groundwork for feminism's later successes, such as achieving women's voting rights, passing the Equal Pay Act of 1963, attaining reproductive freedoms, and gaining educational equality. Now, because of all of these accomplishments, many Americans today see feminism as tired or unnecessary. But on the contrary, feminism today helps to address and resolve several relevant issues having to do with the unequal treatment of females, including closing the gender pay gap, ending sexual assault, and finally eliminating gender equality on the whole. So, let's start with the social media phenomenon and movement, Me Too. Ever since Me Too was popularized in 2017, millions of women around the world have shared their stories and helped to raise awareness about sexual assault and abuse. The Me Too movement has had an enormous impact on the way that the public views sexual assault, and it's also prompted legal action. Non-disclosure agreements, NDAs, which are contracts that legally ban a person from sharing confidential information, have silenced stories of sexual misconduct for years. But now, the use of NDAs to suppress victims of sexual assault has been outlawed in multiple states, including California, New York, and New Jersey. A variety of laws also implementing sexual offense protections have also been passed. The Me Too movement is helping to shed light on issues of sexual assault and abuse while also creating concrete change. So clearly, this part of modern-day feminism is necessary. Another prevalent issue that really demonstrates just the necessity of feminism is the fact that women are paid considerably less than men. In spite of the Equal Pay Act of 1963 that I mentioned earlier, women still only earn 79 cents for every dollar that men make. This was according to a study conducted in 2019, which was only 3 years ago. Now, this number represents the uncontrolled pay gap. The controlled gender pay gap, which compares the salaries of men and women in the same industry, amount of experience, and same job level, is significantly smaller than this statistic of 79 cents per dollar. But even with the exact same job and experience level, women still earn 2% less than men, 98 cents for every dollar. And these statistics don't even take race into consideration. The average Black, Latina, or Native American woman only earns 74 cents for every dollar that men make. Now, some argue that the uncontrolled gender pay gap is due to 3 reasons. 1, that women choose lower paying jobs. 2, that women aren't as assertive enough and they aren't assertive enough to ask for raises. And 3, that women spend less time at work than men do. And in many cases, these arguments hold true. These are results of rigid social standards that dictate how a woman is supposed to live her life, along with the unconscious and conscious gender biases that all genders are guilty of. These unavoidable factors help shape the opportunities and choices that women make throughout their lives. This includes avoiding what are usually higher paying jobs in science and math because of the belief that women aren't as good at those subjects. Additionally, employers sometimes make placement decisions partially dependent on whether they think a woman will be best suited for the job. Women also don't receive raises as often as men, and this was believed to be a result of women not being confident or comfortable enough to ask. But multiple studies have shown that this presumption is untrue nowadays. According to a study conducted in 2018, women and men asked for raises at the same rate. Yet out of those that asked, only 15% of women got the raise, compared to 20% of men. It's also true that women spend less time at work, on average, than men do. And this is because the burden of childcare falls on women's shoulders, not men's. Employers see women with children as distracted and unreliable, while these same gender roles cause employers to see men with children as responsible, dedicated wage earners that will work hard to support their families. Employers tend to invest more money and time on employees that they believe are reliable, so women are often passed over for raises and promotions. And in order to solve these problems, structural changes in society must be made. For example, childcare can be provided at more places of employment, and more professions should provide paid family care. Feminism is helping to resolve these unfair gender expectations, and it lets people know that jobs and familial roles aren't only for certain genders. Additionally, feminism also calls out unconscious and conscious gender biases that cause unequal job opportunities. Clearly, feminism is indispensable in correcting the wage disparity between men and women. Now, certainly, ending the gender pay gap and also sexual violence are some of feminism's main goals nowadays. But feminism also seeks to end gender inequality on the whole, on a broader sense. Early feminist waves focused on the struggles of white, cisgender, heterosexual, upper to and middle class women. Because of this, intersectionality was coined. The word intersectionality basically means it's the overlap of gender, class, sexuality, race, religion, etc. And this forms multiple viewpoints and types of discrimination. For example, a white upper-class woman is treated differently than a black lower-class woman. And in order to fully achieve its goals, feminism must tackle inequality across the board. Many contemporary feminists believe in supporting marginalized communities and their rights. This includes the queer community, people of color, and the working class. But at the same time, feminism also recognizes that well-represented groups have to deal with unfair expectations. Men are negatively affected by gender roles just like women are. Think about the saying, "Real men don't cry." Men are far less likely to seek help for mental illnesses than women. Feminism is helping to correct these preconceived, unfair expectations for genders, and there's still a long way to go. For now, feminism is still relevant. Regardless, modern feminism does have its opponents. Post-feminists, as their name suggests, believe that women have already arrived at true equality, that we already have the same privileges as men do, and that feminism villainizes all men. These arguments are valid to some degree. Feminism does alienate men in many circumstances, which does deter the movement from fully accomplishing its goals. Like all social movements, feminism needs to change in this respect. Also, women do enjoy many of the same privileges and benefits that men have, thanks to feminist waves of the past. Yet, conscious and unconscious gender biases do counteract some of these advantages. The benefits of feminism outweigh the movement's drawbacks, and feminism is still greatly needed. In fact, the need for feminism is more obvious now than it was when I was in 8th grade writing that research essay. COVID-19 has brought to the forefront women's lasting inequalities. Remember lockdowns? What if I told you that childcare facilities shut down? What if I told you that the burden fell on women to take care of their children, and that many of these women found it incredibly difficult to maintain both their jobs and taking care of their family? What if I told you that it was mainly women leaving and losing their jobs in 2020 for this very reason? I hope that you can see that this is not equality. So if you walked into this theater today with a negative perspective on feminism, I hope that I've given you a different perspective to think about. Because from ending gender pay gaps to ending sexual harassment to eliminating gender equality on the whole, especially in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic, feminism still has so much to accomplish. Early waves of feminism helped create much more change for women, and if Americans were to stop now, it would leave the job unfinished. This is why feminism needs to persist. Women deserve to be treated equally. Thank you.